Hello and welcome to this week's Bible in the News. This week in the news, Israel and Lebanon made a historic agreement to resolve the territorial dispute over the Qana and Karish gas fields in the Mediterranean Sea. The agreement stopped short of normalizing relations between the two countries, but the agreement includes Israel and Lebanon sharing the revenue from the Qana gas field through the energy giant Total. Lebanon is currently suffering an economic meltdown, with inflation running at over 200%, so their share of the revenue is sorely needed. Seeing an economic partnership form between these two countries, despite them formally being at war since 1948, should help to stabilise relations, as it will be in Lebanon's economic interest to avoid war breaking out between the two countries. Lebanon is a country of interest in Bible prophecy, as these lands are referred to in the latter-day prophecy of Joel chapter 3. Joel chapter 3 verse 1, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people Israel, and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land." And so we see that this chapter is referring to the time when all nations will be gathered against Israel, like we see in Ezekiel 38. And in verse 4 we read, "Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border." The New King James Version translates verse 4 a little differently. It says, "Will you retaliate against me?" And the ESV translates it, "Are you trying to pay me back for something?" And so from Joel 3, we can expect to see a nation in the area of Tyre and Zidon, today both these places are within Lebanon, that feels that they've been treated badly and want to pay back for something that's happened for them, and also wish that the children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem are removed far from their border. These places, Lebanon and the Gaza Strip, do not love Israel, but we know from Ezekiel 38 that there will be a reliable state of de facto peace between them and Israel. Ezekiel 38 verse 11 says, and it's talking of Gog and what Gog will say when he comes against Israel. It says, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates." And so from this verse, we can see that even though these two peoples, in Tyre and Zidon and also in the coast of Palestine, will want to pay back for something, Israel is able to dwell in peace, without walls, with neither bars nor gates. And when you visit Israel today, you see walls, you see bars, and you see gates almost everywhere you go, particularly on the mountains of Israel. Each West Bank settlement will have a fence around it, with the gate at the entrance there with security, because of the security situation. And there's of course also the security barrier that separates the West Bank from the rest of Israel, partly as a wall and partly as a fence, and with gates at each of the checkpoints as you pass through. And so although we see Israel not at peace yet today, we possibly see another step towards the situation that's described in Joel 3 and Ezekiel 38, where Israel is at de facto peace with Tyre and Zidon, without normalizing relations with them, as it has with some of the Sheba and Dedan nations in the Gulf, as we have seen with the Abraham Accords, while these nations also continue to not love Israel, but wish to pay Israel back for something, as we saw in Joel chapter 3. Another interesting aspect of this agreement is that Israel can now utilize more of its gas reserves, as while the dispute between Israel and Lebanon was ongoing, no oil or gas company were willing to risk the investment to tap the reserves within the disputed territories. Now this dispute is resolved, although Israel has given up some of its share of the Qana gas field, Israel can now exploit the reserves in the Karish gas field, which holds somewhere between 2 to 3 trillion cubic feet of gas. Within the June 2020 energy deal between the EU, Egypt and Israel, Israel already has a ready buyer for this gas, and it is expected that the gas from this reserve will be exported to the EU. With the price of gas in Europe at the highest price on record, it is expected that Israel will bring in healthy revenues by selling this gas, as a major boost to its economy. This is of course of interest, as Israel is described as being a rich nation in Ezekiel 38, something that it is currently not, certainly in comparison to Western nations. And so as we see all these geopolitical forces in play, we can be confident that the Most High rules in the kingdoms of men, and he guides the events in the world according to his plan. Tune in again next week for another edition of Bible in the News.